Alright, midweek 58. Let's start up unit 10, which is a short unit. It's only 2 lessons, so once we're done with this, we're halfway through. So a verb is said to be what when its subject performs the action. Action is a key word here. It starts with an A. It is an active verb. And a verb is said to be the opposite of that when its subject is acted upon. Opposite of active means you are being very passive. And a passive verb always consists of a past participle combined with one of the tense forms of what helping verb? The verb have. Remember, have, has, and had. And when changing a verb from active to passive, the subject needs to become the what of the preposition? The object of the preposition. And when changing a verb from passive to active, the subject becomes the what object of the sentence? The DO, the direct object. Yay! Alright, remember, adjectives, those modifiers, what do they describe? What two parts of speech? You should know by now because we've said it so many times since sophomore year. Adjectives describe nouns and pronouns, right? And what do adverbs describe? Verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. So, although a few adjectives end with ly, like homely or manly or lonely, the ly ending usually signals an adverb. Remember, like 95% of the time, ly word means it's an adverb. And we can change almost any adjective into an adverb just by ending ly, right? So the adjective sad can become the adverb sadly. The adjective prompt can become promptly. Cheerful can become cheerfully, right? So there's hundreds of modifiers that have both an adjective and an adverb form, like bad, rough, noisy, easy, careful, versus badly, roughly, noisily, easily, and carefully. Which group is the adverbs? B. How do we know? It ends with ly, obviously. So, the adverbs made by adding ly to adjectives usually answer the question how about the action of the verb. So if Dean ate his soup noisily, the adverb noisily will answer the question how about what action, what verb? How he ate, right? He ate noisily. So circle, star, highlight. The most common error in the use of adjectives and adverbs is failing to use the adverb form to describe the action of a verb. And people do this all the time and it drives me nuts. Okay, so we're going to learn how to not do that, how to not drive me nuts. So the reward was divided equal or equally between the girls. So to explain how the reward was divided, since that's the verb, we need the adverb form to describe it. So which one's the adverb form? Equal or equally? Equally. How do we know? It ends with an ly. Fred must have done poor or poorly on this test. So to explain how Fred must have done the verb on the test, we need an adverb to describe a verb. So do we go with poor or poorly? We go with poorly, the adverb. Again, how do we know? It ends in ly. So it would be wrong to say Fred must have done poor on his test. The reason why this is wrong is because poor is an adjective. Adjectives cannot modify must have done, which is what part of speech? A verb. Remember, adjectives don't describe verbs. Adjectives describe nouns and pronouns. So the company is always quite blank in handling complaints versus the company always handles complaints quite blank. Which sentence would you want to use the adjective prompt because it's modifying the noun company? A, right? The company is always prompt. Well, which sentence would you use the adverb promptly because it's modifying the verb handles? B, right? Because they handle, how do they handle it? Quite promptly. So, circle the correct word. My sunburn hurt bad or badly for several days. Alright, so this is either bad describing the sunburn or badly describing how it hurt. Which one is it? Badly describing how it hurt, right? Not that you had a bad sunburn that hurt for several days. It's your sunburn hurt badly for several days. A family can live more economical or economically in a small town. So again, either economical is describing the family or economically is describing how they can live. Which one? Economically. So some adverbs have two forms. One has the ly form, one does not. So for example, slow or slowly, quick quickly, loud loudly, fair fairly, cheap cheaply. The shorter form is generally used in brief commands or like traffic signs. So if we have drive blank versus I always eat my meals blank, which sentence is the adverb slow acceptable? A, right? You'd be like drive slow. But technically, you should say drive slowly. Play blank or the store treats all customers blank. Although both fair and fairly are adverbs, which sentence should you use fairly as opposed to fair? In B, right? The store treats all customers fairly. It's more formal, so you want to go with the more formal adverb form. So when an adverb has two forms, the ly one and the one without the ly, the longer form is preferred in your formal usage. So if we have please come quick versus a good executive can make important decisions quick, which sentence should you change quick to quickly since it's a more formal situation? B. B. So although we often hear sure instead of surely used as an adverb in informal conversation, to many people it still kind of sounds wrong. Like he surely gave our suggestion his careful consideration. The adverb surely is required because it modifies what verb? Gave, right? But informally you might hear people say like he sure gave our suggestion his careful consideration. Informally yes, but formally have the ly. So circle the correct verb. Young people sure or surely appreciate a parent's interest in their activities and problems. Which one, since it's more formal? The ly. So if using surely sounds stiff and unnatural to you, you can always use the adverb certainly in its place and it will make just as much sense. Like we sure or certainly save money by painting the house ourselves. We certainly save money by painting the house ourselves. And then, circles to highlight. Use really, not real as an adverb meaning very. Mr. Martin is real or really serious about jazz band. Which one should you go with? Really, because really is describing the adjective serious. You can't have real being an adjective describing another adjective. Adjectives don't describe adjectives. Only adverbs do. So if the test was real difficult versus that should say test was a real success, the word real should be changed to really in which sentence? In A. Why? Because it modifies what adjective? Difficult. The test was really difficult. Whereas success in this sentence is a noun, so real as an adjective does work. So although ly is used mainly to change adjectives to adverbs, it is also used to change a few nouns to adjectives. So for example, you can be a friend, but you can do things friendly. You are a neighbor, but you can do things neighborly, or father, fatherly, order, orderly. So our new neighbors are unusually friendly. The word friendly in the sentence is going to be an adjective, even though it ends in ly. This is that 5% exception to the ly adverb rule, okay? It's being an adjective because it's describing what noun? The neighbors, right? The neighbors are friendly. They're not doing anything in a friendly manner. So, since words such as neighborly, fatherly, and orderly are already adjectives, they cannot be used to describe verbs. So it'd be wrong to say Mr. Doyle discusses literature scholarly. And it's wrong because the adjective scholarly cannot modify what verb? Discusses. He can't discusses scholarly. Like, that makes zero sense. So with neighborly, fatherly, scholarly, lonely, since these adjectives already end in ly, can we make adverbs of them by adding another ly to the end of it? No, right? You're not going to do things fatherly. That's like ugh, in your mouth. So in order to make these adjectives into adverbs, adverbial modifiers, you have to put them into prepositional phrases. So for example, in a fatherly way, in an orderly manner, those prepositional phrases allow you to express it as an adverb. So if Mr. Doyle discusses literature in a scholarly manner, the italicized phrase in a scholarly manner is now modifying what verb? How he discusses. So it'd be wrong to say Mr. Wick spoke to John fatherly, and we know the sentence is wrong because the adjective fatherly cannot modify the verb spoke. So if we were going to put this into a prepositional phrase, we would say Mr. Wick spoke to John how? In a fatherly way or in a fatherly manner. Okay, either or would work. Mrs. Kennedy treats all her customers very neighborly. So again, that doesn't work. It's an adjective here. So to make it into a prepositional phrase, Mrs. Kennedy treats all her customers how? In a neighborly manner or in a neighborly way. And circles to highlight. Do not use kind of and sort of as adverbial modifiers meaning rather or somewhat unless you're talking in relaxed, informal conversation. Informally, it's fine to say kind of, sort of, whatever, but in formal writing, it's kind of frowned upon. Kind of. So I felt kind of embarrassed about my mistake versus the public is kind of dubious about campaign promises. Which sentence would kind of be more inappropriate? B, right? It's a more serious topic there, so it's more formal. Answers. So in more formal speech and writing, use the adverb rather or somewhat instead of kind of or sort of. So the public is kind of or somewhat dubious about campaign promises. You would say somewhat. It made us sort of sad to leave the old farm. Jefferson was sort of fearful of centralized government. Which sentence should sort of really probably be changed? B, right? He was rather fearful or somewhat fearful of centralized government. So, circle the correct modifier, or in some cases, the word appropriate for the formal usage. And if it helps, underline the word that it modifies so you know which one to go with, the adjective form or the adverb form. So, Claire types fast but not very accurate or accurately. Alright, so these two words, one way or the other, are going to be, are going to be modifying what word? The verb types. Okay, so how does she type? Since it's a verb, you have to go with the adverb form accurately. Ron sure or surely understood that I needed this money bad or badly. So remember, if it's describing understood, you go with the adverb form surely. So Ron surely understood that I needed this money. I needed it badly. Because verb, adverb. In those days, people lived simpler or more simply than they do today. Alright, so we have lived being described, and how are they living? More simply. It was rather kind of surprising that the public accepted the news so calm or calmly. Alright, so remember which one do you go with for formal writing? It was rather surprising that the public accepted the news. How did they accept the news? Very calmly. In spite of the customer's bad manners, the clerk conducted himself gentlemanly or in a gentlemanly manner. Alright, so if this is an adjective, this is the adverb, and we're discussing how he conducted himself, we'd go with the prepositional phrase. Some of the umpire's decisions sure or certainly seemed unfair or unfairly to most of the fans. Alright, so which one do you go with? They certainly seemed what? Now this is describing the decisions, right? Not how they seemed. So, or sorry, no, I lied. Opposite of that. No, I lied. Opposite of that, opposite. Surely is describing how they seemed, the verb, but this is describing the noun decisions, right? So what kind of decisions? They are unfair decisions. Sorry for that confusion. I got twisted around for some reason. 3 can sit very comfortably or comfortable in the back seat. Alright, so we're talking about how they sit. So they sit very comfortably, because remember, adverbs can describe other adverbs. And it was somewhat or sort of surprising that the strike should end as sudden or suddenly as it began. So it was, which one? Remember, formal, it was somewhat surprising that the strike should end as suddenly, because we're describing how it ended. Okay, oh, I accidentally missed one up here. I gotta highlight that, or at least make it red so we have the right answer. I'm gonna have to save that too. Yay! Alright, so make sense? Yeah? Hopefully not too bad. Adjectives and adverbs, right? We've been doing them for forever. It's just these tiny little things. You gotta make sure you use the correct form of it. Let's try the worksheet.